democracy at its best, and I really appreciate this, okay? Welcome to the Transportation Committee meeting of Wednesday, October 28th, 2009. They put 2008, but it's 9. We're already almost to 10, okay? And joining me is Mr. Parks and Mr. Labange. We have a quorum to go forward with the meeting. We have several items here that could go on consent, unless there's somebody who wants to speak against one of these things. It's item number 1, item number 2, item number 3, item number 4. These are what you call temporary restricted parking in communities. Is there anybody here in the public that wants to speak on item number 1, 2, 3, or 4? Mr. Alicon has just joined the room, so there's 4 of us. Great. Go ahead.
Yeah, I move we approve 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Is there a second? Okay, Mr. Alicon, it's a 4 consent item, temporary parking restrictions, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, unanimous on that. So we just got rid of 4 of the items, folks. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Item number 5 is please.
Item number 5 is the Rosendahl-Smith motion relative to a report back regarding options and recommendations for building a parking structure in the vicinity of the Pacific Palisades Commercial Village.
If anybody could catch that mumble on that one, let's ask staff to come up and bring us up to date on it. This is regarding Pacific Palisades Commercial Village. Where's the mumble?
I'll improve for the next items.
Amir Sadati, Assistant General Manager. I'm joined to the table with Renee Saglas, the head of our Parking Facilities Division, and he'll give you a quick update on this. Obviously, this is the first reading, and he's had a few meetings, and we have a little bit of information to share with you on that. So I'll go ahead and give it to Mr. Saglas.
Good afternoon, council members. The first thing what we did was, as far as the motion is concerned, is we discussed with our consultants to find out what is the need. And based on this, we sent them the area concerned based on the specific plan, which is the Pacific Palisades Commercial Village and Neighborhood Specific Plan, if I'm not mistaken. And this area, the area map was used to look at the possibility of the idea of constructing a parking facility. But the important part of this is for us to be able to determine whether there's a parking need or a parking demand. And so a parking demand study was put into place to request them how much will it cost for a parking demand study and how long will it take.
Right on.
Based on 3 parking consultants that the DOT normally uses in this kind of study, we found out that it will cost between $25,000 to about $50,000 and 45 to 60 days. So a minimum of 45 days, a maximum of 60 days. Now, the other question that we would like to look at is the funding. At this point, we are all aware, or I'm sure you are aware, that we don't have the budget for this fiscal year for the money for contractual services that we could use for funding this kind of studies.
What happens to the Special Parking Revenue Fund, which has to do with parking anyhow, and people in the Palisades have been paying heavily into that fund? Where's that?
Well, as the council is aware, the ordinance was changed so that any surpluses are then transferred to the reserve fund. So for the past 2 years, that's been the practice, and any project that was existing or in the works, such as Abbott Kinney, such as Vine Street Garage and others, those went through council and those monies were set aside. And as you recall, council member, as part of the whole public-private partnership, about $3 million was set aside for potentially in an unappropriated balance until the council was made aware of that whole study. So at this point, the SPRF, as far as the department was considered, we only have the funding for operations and maintenance. A lot of the funding set aside for capital, for contractual services, for consultant studies was taken out as part of the surplus transfer. So I think what we can do is possibly go back and relook at some of the projects. see if there's any savings in that, including Abbott Kinney, as this is developing, and potentially come back to you, hopefully in 30 to 60 days with some additional funding sources for you. But SPRF at this point may not be able to be the only source of funds, and we may look to your office to see if there's any other possibilities.
Very good, very good, very good. Before Mr. Labange makes his motion, anything else you want to add to
No,
it?
that's about it, sir.
Okay, we move approval of this to go forward. I also move that we work with the Finance Committee, so all of us, citywide, wherever revenue is gained, when the city does get to a certain point, that it can see some return on the contributions that neighborhood business districts have made for local parking.
So when you come back with this report, like you just mentioned, Amir, Mr. Labange's point is well taken, and our bottom line is this. The people in the Palisades for many years have been wanting to put a parking structure up. They pay good money with all the meters they have up there and have put a lot of money that ends up used in the general fund for the crises we're in. They understand that. But what we would like to see happen is just what you said. Look at sources for money. Maybe we can look at some monies too. Maybe we can partnership with the private. But go forward with the study and figure out how we can make this happen so that the people in the Palisades can be partnering with us.
And additionally, that they make sure that in the design, they keep the storefronts like you have on the city structure on Cherokee, like the Largemont structure, although they should be set back more so we can get the best sidewalk availability.
Yeah, we will work with Council District for 11 and the community as to how we will be able to cope up with the current need that they have and, of
Good.
course,
You know,
future
they
need.
got a very active neighborhood council and getting all
I
that.
did have
Mr.
discussions.
Alarcon, Mr. Parks, you want to add anything to
I
this?
just want to give clarity. You're going to come back to us with an understanding of where the funds are going to come from?
That's correct. Currently, this was the first reading, so what we'd like to do is, as I go and scrub some of those other projects, make sure if there's any savings from those projects, and as Mr. Sagos mentioned, somewhere between 25K to 50K is the total potential cost of a study, and see if we have any other sources, and then come back to you to then go ahead and, with your blessing, then go ahead and release the work to be done. But we have to first find out, is there money? Then once we have the money, is there a need for a parking structure? What are the specific needs of that community?
Very cool.
And then follow the process.
Sounds good. Mr. Alarcon.
The funding that you spoke of?
I said if I have to come up with it, we'll find a way to do it. But we want the community in the Palisades that have been asking for this to be interacting with him, and then when Amir reports back, we'll have a better understanding.
Okay, I'm just, the current parking revenue is distributed to all the districts, is that?
No, it's going to the general fund for the deficit. We're not getting that money.
Okay.
We haven't been last couple of years.
Okay, I would have no problem with dedicating for a specific project some revenue stream, but I'm also curious as to what that revenue stream is going to be.
Yeah, so what we can do is come back again with whatever fundings we have, and then within, obviously, the rules of SPRF, the council would appropriate and allocate to projects.
One of the things I think for all of us down the road, that supposedly the formula for borrowing money from the fund has been you don't take dedicated money or earmarked money, but that gets very fuzzy. So we're trying, from the budget committee, when we bring it to the council, is we believe there should be a payback mechanism. And if you take the special parking revenue fund, there should be a payback, as opposed to just saying it went into the general fund. Because if you look at the parking lot situation and the meter situation over time, there's never a surplus. We're always in a deficit of trying to fix them or invest in them. So having a one-year narrow focus of saying 38 million should go to the general fund because there's no specific plan for it this year defeats the purpose of having a special fund. So we'll be bringing that to council.
And I, of course, agree with Mr. Parks on that issue as well. So we look forward to the report back.
With
Thank
30
you.
to 60 days, work
Yes.
for 60 days.
Sooner the better.
Okay.
When you feel comfortable, let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 6 is the Los Angeles World Airports report in response to a Parks Crew motion relative to the status of the RFP process for the selection of a new vendor to manage taxicab operations at LAX.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Mark Adams from Los Angeles World Airports. I'm joined by David Evans, also from Los Angeles World Airports. As the CLA indicated, the motion speaks to two items. One, the status of our RFP process for taxicab management services at LAX, and two, our working relationship with DOT in that process. First, on the issue of the...
Let me interrupt you for a second, and we take back our vote. You had put in a card for item 5. Come on up and do it real quick. I'm sorry about that. I just noticed his card.
Dr. Williams.
Dr. Williams.
Be short. 1 minute.
Thank you.
Okay. Parking generates traffic. We have a real problem throughout LA because parking is so cheap. More parking will generate more traffic. But where is Dash? How about a mini Dash? How about some other way rather than just providing more and more parking? I can park all day downtown, Chinatown, $3. So does it make sense to generate more traffic because the streets can't handle it? Okay, how about new ways of dealing with it? How about a mini Dash, maybe operated by taxi drivers, multi-person vans? It's done in other areas. I would highly recommend that the study also consider the traffic generation by parking. And by the way, I have done public-private partnerships, and the real important thing is their rights over this parking structure. Maybe there's some very strong commercial there. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. By the way, go up to the Palisades, check it out. You'll love the little community up there. It's kind of isolated. And that's
Well,
part of
include
it.
neighborhood councils, too, in it, amongst the stakeholders.
Yeah, I would be
Take the
great.
207 all the way out Sunset.
Thank you very much for your comments, and I apologize to you if we could redo that motion, which was to have the report back as soon as possible on where we're going with that, Amir, okay? Thank you. Okay, and now we're on to item number 6. We have DOT. Can they come to the table as well on this one? Item number 6. Okay, and then we do have 3 public comment cards, which we will also hear before we take any action as a group. Okay.
On the matter of our RFP, right now, taxicab operations at LAX are managed by a contract with a firm called Authorized Taxicab Supervision that runs through 2011, March 2011 specifically. In response to the controller's audit and a number of other comments we've had, there was a controller's audit in 2007 that indicated there was room for improvement in how we manage the taxicab operations at LAX. So in response to that audit and in response to some of the other issues we'd heard from stakeholders, we put out an RFP to effectively replace the existing contract with ATS. That RFP drew only 2 proposals, and frankly, we weren't satisfied with what those proposals offered in terms of innovation and how they dealt with the improvements that needed to be made. So what we did was cancel that RFP process and put out a new RFP process that sort of re-engineered what we were asking for, and that was in April of this year. We went through the evaluation. We got more than 2 proposals this time. We were happy with some of the proposals we got, and we were preparing our recommendations for the board for the Board of Airport Commissioners when the council took up the living wage issue at the airport. When council updated the living wage at the airport, we needed to go back to our proposers to get them to update the cost elements of their proposals. We're now going back through the evaluation process based on the updated costs, and we hope to present a new contract to our board for approval early next year, and that's really where we are at this point in time. We're quite comfortable with where what we've been able to achieve so far on that. Then in terms of working together with DOT, I wanted to point out that I think we've got a strong relationship working with DOT at the staff level. We had a DOT representative on the evaluation panel for the RFP, evaluating the written proposals for the RFP. LAWA staff, airport police, and our Landsat operations division works to implement the DOT regulations for taxicabs at LAX, and we cooperate with DOT on enforcement activities of theirs at LAX. and I think we have a great working relationship with their staff and a great ongoing dialogue. But in the spirit of the motion, we're welcome to any suggestions or proposals that
Very good.
the committee has for improving
In a
that.
second, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Parks to put the motion in, but let me just, for the record, have 4 questions and quick answers. You pretty well answered it already, Mark, but let's hear it again. What is the status of the contract award?
We expect that the new contract for taxicab management services will be recommended to our board in early part of next year.
Okay, second question, was DOT involved in the preparation of the RFP?
Yes, and they have
Your
a
name
member
for the
on the,
record?
I'm Dave Evans with LAWA. DOT was consulted in the preparation of the RFP, and they have a member on the evaluation panel.
Okay, and number 3, did DOT participate on the selection panel?
Yes, they did.
And 4, how does LAWA coordinate with DOT on a day-to-day taxi issues?
I think we've got like I said, a good working relationship with them. The managers of our landside operations division and the appropriate staff in DOT are in regular contact and work together on a very regular basis. I'm not aware of any
Okay,
particular.
do you guys want to comment, please,
downsides.
Amir?
Yeah, sure. I do concur with Mr. Adams. Our department was consulted. We did have staff sat on the panels and reviewed and participated, and also we are working with LAWA on the enforcement issues. We do our sting operations and other activities, so we do work well together. And another item that we're also working is the Green Taxi Initiative. We had a subcommittee at the Taxi Commission that took up the matter, and we brought in LAWA to help us and also be part of the overall program. So I do concur that we do have a strong staff-level relationship. When it maybe comes to policies, there might be some differences, but as far as staff levels working day-to-day on making sure the taxi operations are safe, efficient, clean, all of that is going on currently.
Very good. Mr. Parks?
Thank you very much. Let me ask you, on the question you said, did you have the RFP out a while back and then withdrew it? Was anyone selected in that process?
No, there was no recommendation made to the board at that time. We only had 2 proposals, and we didn't really feel that either of them
Were they
warranted.
rated?
The rating panel was convened.
Yes, we actually had a panel that consisted of 4 members. One of them was an LADOT member. They were frankly deadlocked. There was they were deadlocked. 2-2. We had no winner.
Okay, so the issue when the first process, it wasn't, because what I got out of your comments earlier was that the impression was that we had 2 people or 2 groups that applied, and you weren't satisfied, but we actually went a little further than that. We actually had a process.
Right.
Okay, and they evaluated them, so no one was rated above the other. You just had 2 members on each side decide that they chose one candidate over another.
Right. Rather than to ask the panel to go back and re-deliberate and try to select a winner when they weren't initially capable of doing that, the management at the airport decided that we needed to go back, advertise the RFP another time, do a better effort of advertising it to get more competition, which we've been able to do this time.
Was there any consideration of why you set up a process with even number of people and to avoid having a tie?
That's why we have 5 members this time.
Okay, I know, but on the last time, was there any consideration in going through the process of having 5 members initially so you wouldn't have this tie?
We overlooked the possibility of a deadlock going in.
And frankly, Councilman, I think the fact that the panel was divided 2-2 was indicative of the fact that neither of the proposals really stood out above the other one in terms of quality or
But
what
I think
they
that's
accomplished.
in hindsight. The issue is that if we put something out and we accept people's RFP and we put them through a process, in most instances, they believe that a decision is going to be made. And then to come and say, well, we didn't think of having 5 members instead of 4, and then indicative of the fact that they tied means they weren't any good, that's kind of like after the fact. And I'm assuming, I'm not sure, that those 2 companies may have applied again for the second go-around.
Actually, one of them did not compete the second
At least
time
one
around.
did.
One did.
Okay, and so if we have a preconceived notion that they were not very well received, then their second time around, then you pretty well preordain wherever their position came out.
I actually contacted them to ask them why they didn't bid the second time
I mean, the
around.
company that stayed in the process.
Okay.
Now, the issue is if you've already made a decision that because, as was stated here, that the two companies that competed, the indication was that because it was a tie, that it gave an indication of the, quote, quality or lack of the two participants. So when that company then reapplied, does that stigma stay with them in that second competition?
I would say no, because I think we've also restructured between the first and second RFP, we restructured the opportunity sufficiently so that it would be more apparent to a proposer that they would be able to, what we were expecting in terms of delivering the top level of customer service and the top level of management operations that we were expecting of them. I think.
You didn't know that on the first go-around?
I can't say because I'm not a member, I'm not an officer of that company, obviously.
No,
but yeah,
we didn't know all of those things on the first go-around of what we were looking for.
Well, I think we knew, but I think what we did was the way we restructured the RFP made it more clear the second time around. I mean, obviously the first RFP had some faults in it, and I think LAWA staff has to take accountability for that.
Let me just explain what my concern, although you say there's a lot of, quote, liaison and consulting, what I'm concerned about on the taxi industry is we have a cab commission and we have LADOT responsible for oversight of cabs throughout the city. But then when we go on the airport, even though it's their property, we're now either mandating or creating different rules that may be inconsistent with the other operation of cabs throughout the city only because they're on LAX property. And what my concerns are, it would appear that the cab industry is providing the service to the airport, and LADOT, instead of being consulted with, should be one of the primary policymakers about the cab industry because they're operating all the other cabs. And cab drivers shouldn't have to have a book to say if I'm on the LAX property, I'm expected to do ABC. If I'm on city property, I'm expected D, D, E, and F. So the whole purpose of the motion was that I did not want to see us go through with a second RFP and come to a conclusion and keep this division of saying we consult, we bring a member on for the board. The issue is that we have an apparatus in place called the Taxi Commission that supposedly is setting policy for cabs in the city of LA. And I don't dispute that LAX owns the property, but I do dispute that they own the service to where they take it over completely and say that LADOT will consult with you when your city cabs come on LAX property.
The one point, and I agree, and I understand what you're saying. The one point of clarification I would make is that the taxi cabs are part of the ground transportation program at the airport, but we have carved out the taxi cabs specifically, and we have the operator of the lot enforce the LADOT taxi rules.
Yeah, so I can understand that if you own the cabs, but the city, I think, licensed them, right?
Correct.
And now if they were LAX cabs, I could understand you saying that. But these are city cabs licensed by the city of LA.
Right.
That just happen to spend some of their time on the LAX property. And to have the fact that, again, I think you own the property, but I just don't believe you own the service. And I don't think LADOT's oversight or the Taxi Commission's oversight is diminished because they happen to be sitting on a different piece of land.
No, I think we enforce the same rules that the Taxi Cab Commission and the DOT.
I think at least from the cab drivers I've spoken to, they have some significantly different rules in administering cabs at the airport that they do in their day-to-day operation. So, again.
No, that's really not true.
Okay.
We really enforce the LADOT taxi cab rules that are promulgated by the Taxi Commission. We do have the airport trip fee that the drivers pay in addition, but in terms of enforcement of rules that they comply with. It is the LADOT Traffic Commission rules that we honor and we enforce at the airport.
Okay, that's a different story than we've received. And again, on the and you were clear to carve out differences in policy.
Yeah.
Are there differences in policy between LADOT and LAX?
No, I think maybe the better clarification perhaps is what they're saying is correct in that the Taxi Commission has rules and regulations that are applied throughout the city, including on their property. But I think what we're talking about is the specific rules when it comes to dispatching and operations of how taxis congregate, where they congregate, how they're called up, how they come up to the different terminals. So that's an operation that right now it's contracted out that they're trying to manage within the airport property. So it's more of the policies and rules and regulations as it comes to where is the holding lot, how do you go from holding lot, the turn, all of those, maybe the word rules and regulations, but that's what I think we're talking about, which is different than procedures where, all taxi drivers have to have a shirt and the pants and the shoes and, permit, the seals, all of that is regulated. And as we stated earlier, their police as well as our investigators work together to apply the same rules. But I think that's where the difference is, Councilmember Parks, is the actual day-to-day management, operation, and procedures of how taxis, what are the rules on airport property to come and pick up passengers. Mostly it's pick up, not drop off.
What role does LADOT play in establishing those rules and procedures? Or how familiar is your department with them as you administer the larger taxi program?
Well, Tom Drischler, who's been our taxi cab administrator for almost 11 years or 10 years, came from the airport, so he's very familiar with those. But we as a department, I give you an example. There was I think a pilot program where and Tom, you can probably speak a little bit about that, where the layover was on one of the city streets and LA Lava worked with us and kind of saw that wasn't working. They changed the shifts from 12 to, so maybe you speak a little bit about those rules that you know of that would help.
All right, well, you're speaking of, they changed over for a while to a 12-hour system instead of a 24-hour system where a cab can go to the airport for one day, one out of every 5 days. And that led to some congestion problems in the holding lot area, and I was in consultation with the landside manager about that, and they decided to change the policy back from a 12-hour system to a 24-hour system. So we were in touch with them on that. But we keep a close eye on what's occurring at the airport, and we know that there have to be certain procedures set up for the dispatching so that it's done in a smooth and orderly manner. We think that the system that's in place works very well. In fact, we get compliments from folks from different cities all over the country and all over the world about the efficiency of the dispatching system at LAX.
Okay. Let me ask the city attorney. And the issue of, in the sense, are these charter responsibilities as it relates to LAX having the authority to do RFP and address this cab issue singularly, or does the responsibility of LADOT by charter and give them the authority over all cabs?
Well, it's not easy to answer the question yes or no, but I think the discussion so far, including your fairly astute questions, have already tried to lay out the jurisdiction of each department. The airport, clearly as a proprietary department, has the jurisdiction to manage its property, and to the extent that it is responsible for traffic circulation, ground transportation, I think is the name of the program as you describe it, that should clearly be within the authority of the airport staff and its commission. The Taxi Cab Commission is that body which regulates the taxi cab service in the city of Los Angeles. Who is qualified to drive, how many cabs will be licensed in the city of Los Angeles, and what the responsibilities of drivers and owners and companies in the city of LA. So if your question is about the procurement process, which I think it is, because we're talking about an RFP, the answer would depend on exactly the service that is being requested. If it is ground transportation, if it is deployment of airport property, landscaping the parking lot, as a more extreme example, or on the other extreme example, if it were the kind of safety equipment that will be in a taxi cab when it's on airport property, that would be intruding into clearly the taxi commission jurisdiction. So I'm not personally familiar with the LAWA RFP that was issued for this particular service. But our office would be happy to take a look both at the RFP and look at this issue to determine and give this committee more specific advice about whether or not any part of this procurement process bled across jurisdictions, or whether it was genuinely and properly the exclusive jurisdiction of the airport.
How long would that take?
I couldn't possibly tell you. Being a soon-to-be retired person myself.
No. ERIP strikes again.
ERIP.
No.
I'm trying to coast ahead of ERIP. But I plan to be around. I'm not leaving town.
Okay.
But I really, but in fairness, I can't really answer for that, but I would be very happy to take the message. And since I'll certainly be involved in all transition efforts and training of any successors, I can personally promise you I will personally look at it.
Let me ask, you said, when do you propose this coming to your commission?
About the first, somewhat early next year, maybe December, but more likely first part of next year.
If this goes before their commission early next year, could we have something back before then?
Yes, I think we should. I think that would be very reasonable to think.
If we could continue that, because the real issue for me is that, and again, unless something legally prevents it, is that the service that's provided by the LA City Cab Company is a service, and if you have rules about transportation and circulation, that's one thing. But on the other hand, it would appear, unless we legally prohibit it, that the LADOT would be the authority on cabs, and you may commission their service or something to that regard. But I'm not comfortable with the fact that LAWA basically takes the time to consult, when it appears to me that LADOT should be more involved in the authority of addressing cab issues and not just being consulted. So that's my view, and we'll see what the city attorney comes up. But that's where it just makes little sense to me that we have cabs all over the city, but when they come on this plot of land, they belong, LADOT, I believe, clearly owns the land, clearly has the authority over the land, but the service that they bring to it, I believe, from my perception, belongs to LADOT. And so if we can get that back before, because I just don't like the process to where we have two departments involved with one process, but when they're in one part of the city, the department that deals with a larger issue is not involved, other than primarily consulting.
Okay, so we're going to hold that at the desk for a minute before we continue it till we have public comment cards. We have 3 public comment cards on this one. One is Hamid Khan, Arnold Sachs, and David Shapiro. Those 3 could come on up and react to what you just heard as a discussion here before we go forward with continuing it. We got Mr. Sachs here. Where's David Shapiro? Come on, David, have a seat.
Do we just get 1 minute for that?
Yeah. Because we do have a lot of people here for the last issue, which we want to get into. And Mr. Labange will be back. Mr. Alarcon has left, so that's why he will be back, so we'll have a quorum to continue the meeting.
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Hamid Khan with the LA Taxi Workers Alliance. I think for this item, the issue at hand is also indicative of why we are here for item number 7, too. In January 2007, Controller Laura Chick released an audit of a contract between the city and Authorized Taxi Cab Services that currently has the contract, which revealed numerous problems with the contract. It revealed that $27,000 were misappropriated by the Board of Directors of Authorized Taxi Cab Services, which also happens to be the president of the taxi companies. It also revealed that workplace injuries were not reported, hence violating workplace injuries rules. And it also was quite critical that the sole source contract that had been given to ATS for almost 17 to 18 years was not in the best interest of the city, and also said that LAWA had not done a good job in providing its oversight. So it'll be 3 years next January since that audit has come out, so we really hope that at this time we are able to do the right thing and we can get rid of ourselves of all these corrupt practices, which you will see being spoken on the other side from an item number 7 as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Arnold, I'm sorry, you're up next, David.
I want to associate myself wholly with Hamid's comments. I was a founder of the original ATS when, after the drivers won their movement in 1977, and we conducted that in a way to assure that drivers were treated equally, fairly, that fees were low, very low, kept for their interest, and certainly that the monies would be kept intact if they were asked to give monies. I really, in conclusion, would ask, why have there not been indictments made about the revelations through Controller Laura Chick's office of the fact that the presidents of the companies were under the table and without notice getting cash payments for at least an admitted 3 months? You've got to have a neutral ATS. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Arnold Sachs.
Thank you. Arnold Sachs. I believe I heard mention that the request for proposals had to be, one of the reasons it had to be redone because the living wage ordinance had been addressed. So you have a living wage ordinance for the management vendors at the airport, which is not under city control. But you don't have a living wage ordinance for the transit vendors, same reason. Request for a proposal was issued by LAWA, but the contract is signed by the city. Why is this contract signed by the city for request for proposal from LAWA? It's a proprietary department, so that's not under the control of the city. And from my understanding, you have different rules at LAWA. You might have different rules at LAWA than you have at the city. Well, doesn't LADOT have different policies at 6 arenas in the city than for their parking personnel, for their traffic enforcement officers, than they have throughout the rest of the city? Isn't it so that some places don't have to reimburse the cost for those personnel? Just out of curiosity.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Let me just make sure on the LAX personnel, could you make sure that if things get moving more quickly, that we be made aware if you're going to be ahead of schedule? And it's because I'd like to have us back here on this report before you let that RFP.
We'll make sure our management understands that they want, you want to hear this item again before we proceed.
Okay. And you want her around too, if you know what I mean. Okay. All right. Thank you. We will take Mr. Parks' advice and continue the item for report back on. Okay. Now we're to item number 7.
Item number 7 is
that, folks. We're going to get rid of the other ones first.
So Rosendahl-Smith motion relative to report back regarding, whoops, wrong one. I'm sorry. Item 7 is the DOT report relative to the termination of the existing taxi cab refranchising plan, consultant contract, development of a revised scope of work, and solicitation of stakeholder comments.
Okay. So we're going to try to do 10 minutes on each side and see what happens on that. Though I got to tell you, I got a whole stack, and if you need more time, you'll get more time, okay? No problem with my end.
Well, Mr. Chair, you have a couple of cards for people who are not part of the...
We don't even know what they are. They're in between. Yeah. And some of them are not even for or against or whatever.
Exactly.
So it's a bit on that end of it. So why don't we just take what I see as real quickly, general comments, okay? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And for the general comments, if we could make this 1 minute before we go to both sides of the other issue. And the general comments, golly, LATWA is the name of the group, but...
No, I think those are for the 10 minutes and 7 cars. Yeah, that's just nice.
Even though it says general comment?
Yeah, before general comment. It's not an action item, so it's...
These are the ones that there's
Which one? Okay, there's 3 that aren't.
Yeah, and this is one.
Uh-huh. Very good, very good, very good, very good. Okay, here, take these away. General comment, we have Dr. Clyde Williams, okay? We got David Shapiro, and we got Arnold Sachs. If you want to do it, you get a minute apiece, and then we'll go to both sides.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. You need a new consultant. I read through quite a bit of the file, and what's going on? Stakeholders should also include the neighborhood councils. Nope. There's more.
Appreciate that very much, Dr. David Shapiro.
David Shapiro, as a board member of UITD, this is instructional to you and to the drivers behind me. They're my brother drivers. They are not informed. They've never been informed fully in all my 33 years of experience about the real issues here. And they're given very limited information and biased information. And they themselves are too busy as drivers and exhausted to really know what goes on down here. So I would caution, just because they stand up or jeer at the meeting behind me, not to realize that. And they may be actually here against their own interests and not even know it.
Okay, but I just want to say this, David. You've taken a position, even though you said no comment on that, okay, because you were basically against that group there. So next time when you speak, say you're for or against, okay? Okay, Mr. Sachs.
Thanks, sir. There's a lot of talk about disputing groups here. There's a way to eliminate some of that dispute. I've asked about it before. In a neutral way, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Taxi, the taxi administrator, whatever the group, the board that meets, they got a report from a driver who filed a claim with the IRS. The IRS wrote that he was the winner by default because the cab companies did not show up for representation. Nothing's been acted on. The question is employee-employer relationships. If the city wants to step up and say something, is concerned about employee-employee relationships, then they should take a look at it. If the accusations are correct, then they should act accordingly. And if the accusations are incorrect, then they should act accordingly. I believe, Mr. Chair, you'll find the answers are in the cards that you're holding. Those ones from last week and those. You'll find the answers are in those cards. You just have to know where to look. Trust me on this one.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. We trust you on that. Okay. All right. Now, here's what we're going to do. Come on up. Those who want to come up I can't pronounce names, so we're gonna see where we're at on this one. I have eight cards from that side. Okay, they're each going to get 1 minute, so it'll go to 8 minutes. Okay, not the 10. And then the other side, you can go until you're exhausted. Hopefully, it's 10 minutes will work and get your thought out if you need more time to get it. Okay? Okay. All right. Now. Okay, there's 8 cards, and I hope all 8 of you are here for this one. Okay, we'll start with you, sir. Tell us your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Ntayo Selassie from Los Angeles Taxi Workers Alliance. We appreciate your leadership, of course. Per your recommendation, we met DOT and provided input. We also thank Rita Robinson for her leadership to meet with us. We would like to work with DOT to bring fair tax system and excellent service to the public. We know it is not easy to change corrupt system. We think this is our time when we have fair-minded, progressive city council and mayor. We have been voiceless and invisible for a long time. We have the support of vast majority of honest and hard-working taxi drivers. We have 1,400 signed members, signed supporters. To prove it, we have it here. And we also know that those who are benefiting from current system do not support us. And we do appreciate your guidance for facilitating this change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sir, your name?
My name is Gray Palmer, Los Angeles Taxi Workers Alliance.
Very good.
Thanks to your leadership and the full City Council, we were invited to participate in framing the future of our business, and we have been delighted to do that. Taxi drivers no longer feel invisible, silent, disposable, a source of cheap labor. We have hope. That's because we have a vision of the future. Part of our vision involves these facts. Taxi workers are among the working poor in Los Angeles, working 72 to 84 hours a week for an average of $8 an hour. Taxi workers suffer many health problems. They are specifically vulnerable to heart disease and diabetes, but are also 60 times more likely to be murdered on the job than other workers, and are often victims of racial discrimination and attacks. Despite these health concerns, taxi workers have no workers' compensation and are largely uninsured. They have limited access to health care. We at LATWA have a driver initiative to provide health care service and have made a modest beginning. We've organized medical and non-medical volunteers to give free health screenings once, just a minute, 20 more seconds. We've organized volunteers to give free health screenings to taxi workers. And I want to take this opportunity to thank especially the staff of Councilmember Bill Rosendahl for securing the location for this health screening, which will take place on November 14th, and it's for all of you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Altai Asfaw. I'm a member of LATWA and a supporter. So I'm here to just seeking justice. We are here to get the right thing. We are not asking anything except we need our medallion. This driver needs a medallion. We know those our brothers. They need medallion. They don't need franchise. Franchise is the one who killed us for 20, 30 years. So we need the right medallion and the right thing. So the management, they don't want the medallion because they're going to kill them over there because they don't have any management. Those are the management people behind us. The real people are working hard. They don't have time to come over here. So our proof is 1,400, 1,800 people are support us. Thank you very much.
Okay, could I have your first name again, sir? Because I could not figure out which card you were. What's your first name?
Altai Asfaw, A-S-F-A-W. Thank you very much.
First name Altai.
Altai. First name is Altai.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. Thank you. You can leave, please. Okay. First of all, for the record, we'd like them submitted for the record, those two binders, if that's okay. Okay, we'd like them submitted to the record. Okay. All right, who's next?
Good afternoon. My name is Betty Hung. I'm an attorney with Intercity Law Center here on behalf of LATWA. We want to thank you all for your courageous and ethical leadership. And because due to that, the city now has an unprecedented opportunity to start with a clean slate and create a 21st century green taxi system that can be a model for the nation. A new RFP and study can pave the way for the city to engage in visionary thinking and planning about how to promote good jobs and guarantee sustainable wages for taxi workers, build a world-class multimodal public transportation system that incorporates the point-to-point capabilities of taxis, and protect the environment by transitioning to green vehicles and also incorporating taxis into mass transit. These are areas in which members of this committee have long demonstrated leadership, and we thank you for approving the issuance of a new RFP and study that can help the city to achieve these goals. In response to the City Council's directive that stakeholders provide input for a new RFP, LATWA did submit comments which were unanimously affirmed by the Taxi Commission.
Appreciate that very much. Sir?
Yes, sir. My name is Gary.
Whoever's next.
Julie Su with the Asian
Julie was
Pacific.
there before her, but she let her go, so go ahead.
With the Asian Pacific American Legal Center. I want to echo the appreciation of the work of Ms. Robinson and the Department of Transportation. We met with them, and I just had a couple of questions or concerns about the report that was issued. While we do appreciate the pressures that the DOT is under, particularly in this time of the city's financial crisis, one of the main problems we have is with the timing that is being proposed for issuance of the new RFP. As the proposed schedule says that this wouldn't go to the Taxi Cab Commission even until January. So the actual RFP would not be issued to the public for bids until probably March or April, in which case the consultant would not be hired until June or July at the earliest. The Taxi Cab Commission did pass a detailed motion about what should be included in scope of work, and we believe that this provides a good blueprint, and there should be a parallel track between finishing off the old contract and submitting the new RFP for approval. And we also want to make sure that there's enough money for the new RFP so that we can actually do the work that everyone agrees needs to be done. It's not so important what the taxi industry is called, and I want to say what system the taxi industry actually adopts, whether it's franchise or medallion. And I think that President, you've suggested that there are opposing sides here, but I think that many people here would not oppose the things that are in the new RFP that we believe living wages.
Very good, very good, very good. And staff, make sure you hear everybody's public comment and respond when you come up with your report. Thank you very much. Sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Gary Vogan. I'm a driver at UITD, and I am a member of LATWA. I've been driving since 1988. And in all these years, I'll say this. I am not accustomed to seeing city regulatory agencies such as the Transportation Committee and the Taxi Cab Commission finally stand up for drivers' rights. It has not been in my recent experience. And this is a change, and I want to thank the Taxi Cab Commission, recommendations here to the Transportation Committee in endorsing UCLA's Driving Poor study and its recommendations for a medallion system. But more than that, the Taxi Cab Commission is now endorsing reform. And that's a tough proposition. There is a grain of truth in what some of my fellow drivers have been saying about LATWA. No, LATWA does not represent all the drivers. It does not represent the drivers who own 40 cabs. It does not represent the drivers hooked into favoritism and being fed orders. It does not represent the favorites here of the companies. If you're going to fight these new slave owners, you have to understand the slave owners are going to fight back.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your comments. We have, one more?
Sure.
You're it?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want to say, are you just sitting here?
Oh, I can leave.
No, okay. Thank you. Appreciate you being there. I was just thought maybe there was something else. Okay, you're up.
Thank you very much. Hamid Khan with the LA Taxi Workers Alliance. So again, Council Member, just to echo my colleagues' sentiments, I think what is at stake today is good governance, transparency, and justice. Our goal is not to rally drivers and engage in a smear campaign. Our goal is to seek justice and expose the corrupt practices that have been endemic in the taxi industry for many, many years. This body spoke loudly and clearly on September 23rd. Then the full City Council spoke unanimously on September 30th on your instructions to the stakeholders to go and meet and present their recommendations to LADOT. We met with General Manager Rita Robinson and her staff on October 14th. And we really appreciate the openness and graciousness that the staff showed over there. Then those recommendations were taken to the LA Taxi Cab Commission, which has spoken loudly as well with a pretty comprehensive motion out there. So what we are here to seek today is for the committee to do the right thing, listen to what the Taxi Cab Commission has offered, and rid ourselves of these years and years of corrupt practices. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now, gentlemen over here, you want to bring up 10 that you really want first, and put 4 of you in the chairs and 5 right up there, and let's see how we can move on this issue. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Let's put a 4th one sitting down. Okay. 4th one sitting down. Okay, great. Okay, slowly say your name so I can find the card, okay?
Saeed Qasim.
Saeed?
Saeed, S-A-I-D, Q-A-S-I-M.
You're good, Saeed. I appreciate that. I got to find it first.
Can you start speaking now? Save a minute.
Yeah, go ahead. Speak it.
Okay, my name is Saeed Qasim.
Got it. That's Q-A-S-I-M, right?
Yes.
You asked for the binders that were on your
Yes.
table to be entered in the record. You walked out with them, as she usually does.
Okay.
It's not a person.
Well, then...
I'll go get him, and I'll be right back.
Well, we'll see what that story is. We love Tom Labange. All right, your minute will start up again. Wait a minute. Let's just take a deep breath, folks. Okay, help Tom, by the way. Saeed? Okay, folks. 1, 2,
Mr.
3.
Chair, just for clarification, for each individual that speaks, they only get 1 minute each, correct?
The most.
Yes, okay,
What we're going
that's
to try to do is
I-
get...
I've-
The leadership is working with
I'm
us on that.
59 now, though.
Don't worry about it. You're back to a minute.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Saeed.
My name is Saeed Qasim. I've been a driver for 8 years. And after a year and a half, the money I saved, and with the help of my community, I bought my first cab. After 8 years now, I have 4 of them, and I have a totally different experience than what these guys are talking about. I would want the contract renewed, but I don't want anybody provided me. I provide for my family. This was my American dream, and I don't want them destroying and anything happening to it. I would like, and I had the commission adopted what they wrote, and what they're making out the Alcob as evil. I wouldn't have anything if they're evil. I mean, I have 4 cabs, I have a family to support, and I built a house for my mom. She's the proudest in her community, and this is not true. They don't represent us.
Thank you, Saeed. I appreciate it.
Martin Manoukian.
Martin, that's an easy first name for the kid here. Take you half an hour to find the cars. There you go. Gotcha. You're up.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Martin Manoukian, elected president of Los Angeles Yellow Cab Co-op, currently stockholder. I drove a cab myself for about 10 years. I felt compelled to come here today because I question who is running the show in this process. LATWA submitted a letter to the commission which was full of false information. Then the commission adopted the LATWA letter word to word. To me, it looks like the commission is an extension of LATWA. If the city goes along with LATWA, what LATWA wants out of this, the drivers and we the small business owners will be the losers. We are not talking about putting the cab companies out of business. We are talking about putting hundreds of small business owners out of business. Please take the LATWA recommendation out of RFP and few comments. First of all, we do fight for the medallions as entirely taxi industry, as well as, well, few seconds if I may. Yes, the scope of recommendation, it should become from currently stockholders, as you've seen majority sitting behind, and like was indicated, we can bring another 3,000, as well as today's taxi industries management, since they have much experience. LATWA has no experience previously. They don't know what they're talking about. Basically, the recommendation shouldn't be considered 95%. It should consider our side. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If I could have 2 more get up there that are going to go speak in the packet there so we can keep moving.
Natabai Ahmed. Natabai Ahmed.
Spell that first name.
N-E-T-T-A-B-A.
N-E, okay. You could, N-E-T-T?
Yes.
Great, you're up.
Good afternoon. My name is Natabai Ahmed. I am the truly elected president of IATOA, which is an association of independent taxi owner association. Chairman Rosenthal, you represent District 11. Chief Parks, you represent District 8. And Mr. Labange, you represent number 4. So, and the reason you can say that you represent your district is solely because on election day, the majority of your constituents voted for you. On that election day, some voted for your opponents, and some did not vote at all. But each and every qualified person to vote in your district had an opportunity to vote at that day. You were elected to be the voice of your constituent and district. Just like you, on election day, I got elected by majority of our company members to be the voice of our members and drivers. Here, on the other hand, you have Latwa and Mr. Hamid Khan, who come in front of you and other city officials claiming that they are the voices of taxi drivers. The claim is fraudulent. Mr. Hamid Khan, who never drove a taxi, never owned a taxi, had never had an association with any taxi cab company, decided to elect himself as a voice of our drivers. I want to ask the drivers who are here today, have you ever been asked to vote for Mr. Hamid Khan to be your voice?
Never.
Have you ever voted for Mr. Khan Latwa to represent you? Do they represent you today?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Please listen to our
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
And your name?
George.
George. That's
And the last
easy
name is like George, but it's Yordake.
That's Iordach.
Correct, Your Honor.
Very good.
My name is George Yordake. I came to United States in 1988. Broke, with no money. I started driving a cab, still driving. I bought several cabs. I'm still driving. I get elected board member of Bell Cab Corporation, and I am not paid for my services over there by the management company. I take care of my family. I bought a house. I get education for my people. And these Latva people, I want to be very specific, do not represent me or the greatest majority of taxi cab drivers in Los Angeles. They are nothing to do with us. There is nothing which they help us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we go to the next one, Mr. Labange, point of order. What happened?
Well, Sarge and I went out. We got to the 3rd floor. Just like old Jack Webb, I looked to the left, looked to the right, saw nobody, went down to the 1st floor, checked with our security, with general services. They didn't see anybody who fit the description, went back to the 3rd floor, and found an LA Times reporter. So, that's what happened.
Well, let's give him a round of applause.
All right, good. Now, I think what we got to do, though, if you could look at the card, I hope they filled the card out officially, because they have an address. If they have an address on that card of the person who spoke. So we'll redo the tape later. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That if there's 1,400 signatures or whatever the story is.
Thank you.
We were hoping to get those reports to see what the story was, so.
Let me ask a question here before we go on, Mr. Chair, just a second. Bring it to you. You're responsible, all right?
Look forward to it. We look forward.
Raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. I got it.
Oh, my gosh.
Thank you.
There's a democracy here, but it's getting a little out of control. Okay. All right. Thank you. Who's up next? One of you four, whoever wants to be the...
Yeah.
Okay, your name?
My name is Boris Rosman.
Boris.
It's almost
okay.
American name, the same spell.
We'll find you, Boris.
Yeah, I'm with Los Angeles Checker Cab. My first permit I got... Rosman, yes.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yes. First of all, thank you for your attention, and 3 very, very knowledgeable, experienced gentlemen listen to what I'm going to say. I got my permit in 90, and my wife is calling me American Dream. I'm really, really dream. I bought my first cab after I was a lease driver for 2 years, and I slept in the car 20 hours per day, and I made money to buy my first cab. Today, me and my wife, we own 5% of the LA Checker Cab. Both of my children went through the college. My daughter just got master's degree clinical psychology from Pepperdine. My son is in UC Davis. And Mr. Parks, Mr. Labange, and Mr. Rosenthal, there is a way of doing business in America, and this way it's extremely honest. You can do it, but you have to work. What Latvia is trying to do, it's very simple. They are accusing everybody about everything. I hate to see department was accused. We have the best department in 20 years that I'm in this business. The best DOT staff, very helpful, very professional. And to accuse them to take the sides and not to do anything, it's just it's disgusting.
Okay, appreciate your comments, sir. Thank you.
You go first.
Before I'm going to start speaking, can I put this letter on the record?
Yeah, sure. Tell us your name again.
My name is Yevgeny Smolyar, Los Angeles,
SMO.
SMO? Yeah, the last name SMOLYAR.
Got it. Thank you. Go for it.
I'm the president of Los Angeles Check Your Cab. Started driving a cab when I was 19. I came to America in 1989, started driving a cab in 1990, bought my first cab in 94. Got elected as a road supervisor in 95. 98, I got elected as a vice president. 99, I got elected as a president. As all the taxi companies that presented here, all my colleagues, and they are here, sit in front of you. They went through the same road. They came, they start driving, they bought a cab, and they become a managers of the taxi companies. We're not a crooks. When they say, question would be to members of Latvia, from the people who just spoke, 8 people, how many of them driving a cab? 3. They don't know anything about taxi business. There's 3 drivers just talk in front of you from Latvia. Everybody who's here, we all drove a cab. Everybody who's here, we know what's a taxi business. Everybody who's here know how hard to make money, and we know how to make money. But the first priority to serve the public. And what they're proposing in their constructive letter with the attorneys involved, it's not good for everybody here. And it's not good for public, and it's not good for the taxi drivers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think it's my turn now. Martin Shatakian, the president of San Gabriel Transit City Cab. First name is Martin. You can find it
You
easier.
can give me the name again. I'm having...
Martin Shatakian, S-H-A. S-H-A.
Last name is S-H-A?
Starting S-H-A.
S-H-A.
Shatakian.
There it goes. Gotcha.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
As my colleague Eugene said, I also started as a list driver and then became a cab owner, then was elected as a vice president, then was working in marketing, then was elected as a corporate secretary, insurance coordinator, was elected as a president of that same company, then for the last 2.5 years I'm working for City Cab as a president as well. I'm a hard-working person. I'm honest, and I make my money honest way by hard working. Okay, now, when it comes to stakeholders and input from stakeholders and comments submitted to LADOT, I hate to say that as of today we have only comments submitted from Latvia to Taxi Cab Commission, which also took an action on the information item, the passed a motion on the information item, which they never had the right to do so. And that's only what we have today in the comments, and I hate to see that. Franchise system in Los Angeles exists for more than 70 years. Few generations of hardworking, honest drivers, cab owners, and managers work on this system. And franchise system controls the industry and provides the best possible service to public. Now, these drivers, these people from Latvia are requesting to demolish the franchise system and have medallion in place. That is absolutely wrong. We're not against medallions. We want franchise, and we want also medallions for cab owners. This way, the cab owners will maintain their rights, and the city will maintain the control over the industry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
My name is Aram Sarafian.
You're going to have to, A-R-A-M?
That's correct, sir.
Great, gotcha.
Hello, councilors. Thank you for your attention.
Very good.
And today I just want to speak with basic English because I apologize about my accent, but I'm thinking without accent. Okay. This about Latwa, we know everything. This is disappointment. So I don't want to continue about that idea. So many people, they told that. Belong to me 1,500, just the owners, self-employees like me, starting from 1 cap, today is 4 or 5 cap. I got a 5 shares. Today I'm just asking, specifically, I just want to talk about the question which is bothering me. In DOT, our cars cost nothing. We're paying a lot of money for the taxi shares. Where is the law proving us as investors? Where is our money? Which paper is saying our cap cost 40, 50, 60, or 70 grand? Thank you for attention.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Hi. My name is Steven, and I don't have, I don't know 5% of the... Matusovsky, Steven Matusovsky, yeah.
Gotcha.
I've been driving cab almost 16 years, and I only have 1 cab, and I'm spending on the roads like 10 to 12 hours. And the reason why I do, because I love my job. Why I love my job? Number 1, because we have very well organized management, which keep discipline, like on the streets, like inside an office. Number 2, we have bylaw, which protects the rights of the shareholders, the rights of the lease driver. Number 3, we have marketing, and we have marketing and public relation, which those guys, they'll make our business strong. We need business people. Latva, they never represent us, as they never will. Whatever the agenda they have, whatever the statements they make, it's total false and fabrication. They never will represent us, and please, from my heart, from heart of my drivers, from heart of my family, don't let him be part of our industry, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your comments.
My name is Firoz Alam.
Phil?
Firoz Alam. A-L-A-M, last name, Alam.
Yep.
Okay, first I'm going to say that I'm blessed to come over here to talk, and I'm not talking with myself. This is the voice of, I have so many friends, and I talk to a lot of owners. They are telling me, okay, go ahead, tell them all the truth, what is going on. I will say, please, this is a message to consider these drivers, these owners. I'm a cab owner, and I work 17 hours, 16 hours every day, 7 days a week. I make some money to buy a cab, and I'm very happy with this management. Now, these monies, these drivers, these owners are bring from their country. Most of them, you know that these taxi drivers are immigrant. They bring their money from back home, selling their property, selling everything, and they want to establish their business. So please, take it very seriously about this Latwa. Why they are killing us like this? We have investment. It's not only 1, 2, or 3. We have 1,000 people. They bought a house. They bought something with this taxi industry. With the taxi, please take it very seriously about this thing, that how they are doing it and what they did so far. Please, thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Hello, my name is Ralph Valadez.
Ralph.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm with Checker Cab. Number 1, thank you for your time, Mr. Parks, Mr. Rosenthal, and Mr. LeBlanc Hollywood, forever.
Thank you.
I've been a driver for 31 years, and I'm still a driver. I'm not an owner. I'm not a shareholder. I'm not management. I'm a driver, a lease driver. That's it. Okay? I do it because, number 1, I love to drive. Number 2, I'm a people person. Because of this job, I can meet and greet in 12 different languages. I can sing songs to the customers in German, Japanese, and Chinese. All right? I love doing this. And when I first started, way back when with Yellow Cab, we had a union. They screwed that all completely up. Now we're with franchises and everything. We don't need another union. I'm not represented by none of these people. Okay? I'm just happy doing my job, and that's the way it should be.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there's anybody else coming up, the chairs are there. You're up.
My name is Philip Batten.
Would you spell your first name?
Philip.
Oh, Philip. Okay. Gotcha, Philip.
Yes. Good afternoon, City Council member. I'm driving for City Cab for almost 9 years. I'm happy with that. And I'm here today because I'm tired of this LATWA. He keeps saying and writing that they represent us. They never represent us and they do nothing for us. I'm happy with my company. And then LATWA keeps saying, we are poor, we cannot survive like this or like that. We are okay. I support my family. I'm okay. Ever since I started with Joanne with CityCab until today, I'm okay. So I just want to city leader and city council members to know they never represent us. We don't need any LATWA or anybody help. We are okay, and this is business. We're okay with the CityCab. Please let us stay like this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Philip. Appreciate your comments. Sir?
Yeah, my name is Jay Singh.
Yeah, I got you, Jay. Very good.
I work for CityCab as an independent contractor, and I'm very happy and pleased the way it is. And there's no way that I'd like LATWA to represent me. I can always represent myself.
Very good.
Okay?
Thank you. Appreciate that very much. Sir?
I am Zahid Fazal, and I've been a cab driver for the last 10 years, and I used to be I used to be the shareholder as well. I'm here today because of a frustrated, and the LATWA is continuing to attack the industry, and continuing to insist that we are the driving poor. One thing I want to mention, if somebody is driving poor or somebody is living poor, he should or she should have to be changed the jobs. But the drivers, they are here, they've been here for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So at least they are making a decent living for themselves and their families. And I'm raising a successful family. I have 3 or 4 kids, and no matter what, that even one day has been passed that I don't have a food on my table. They are going to the good school. I'm living a good life. My family and all the concerned people, they are living with me. So my concern and my recommendation is this, that LATWA or Mr. Khan, they are not a part of us. We are happy as we are going. On the behalf of all the drivers, you should talk to the real drivers like me and the other people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And is there a Paul in here in the house? Come on, Paul. Did you speak? No. Okay, come on up. Your name, sir?
Michael Kalin.
Go ahead, Michael.
Well, let Paul speak.
Okay.
Well, my personal opinion about LATWA is that their plan is like piracy. They just want to take over our businesses, hijack our investments, and hold us hostage for their own gain, baseless, senseless gain, which I beg you not to allow them to have that opportunity, and let us continue our lives peacefully and respectfully for each other. Like we are working like brothers with each other. We just want to continue doing that. We don't want anybody like this, LATWA or whatever, coming and making stories, just, Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, the last fellow, right?
I guess so, yes.
Okay, so everybody's got a chance to speak. I'm very proud of everybody moving quickly as you did, but you got your messages out. Go for it.
Mr. Chairman, Councilman Parks, Councilman Labange, I hope you're starting to get the real picture. If you look behind me, do this look like slave owners or slaves, and the slaves came here because we drove them here against their will? No. These are working people, the same way we are working people. Understand one thing, please. The managements do not own these companies. The managements work at the pleasure of the owner and the drivers in these franchises. That's why their elections, that's why their contracts, that's why eventually their turnovers in management when they do not do their jobs. LATWA does what LATWA is paid to do. There are organizers. That's Hamid Khan's job. That's what he gets paid for. They're trying to impose their ideology on the taxi cab industry against the will of most of the drivers and people, the greatest majority, and to the detriment of the public. The first duty that the Taxi Cab Commission has is to protect the public, not to impose somebody else's ideology. As far as I know, and Shelley could correct me, a commission has to be apolitical. They're not elected officials like you are. Yet the Taxi Cab Commission is imposing their own ideology. That commission is stacked at this point with activists. Things being as they may, that's what it is. However, last comment, staff will tell you that today's service to the public, which is the main concern one should have, has never been better in this city.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
There's another guy here.
Come on up, my man. You're up. It's Kahil.
It's Khalil, I'm sorry, Khalil Haydarnia.
You got it. You're up.
God bless you.
God bless you too.
Thank you.
Salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum. Justice for all. Okay, how many minutes I have? Because last time...
Come on, got a minute, man.
Okay, okay. My name is Khalil Haydarnia. As I talked on the city council, I'm an architect and I've been involved in taxi for 30 years. As it needed, I did that. I believe Latwa, I'm not associated with them, but is doing some good things. I spoke with them, you know. For the first time, they are caring for some little people, not some people who come here and maybe they're not paying their taxes on time, and they make one cab to 2 and 3 or 4 and all that. I believe it should be to become medallion based on the length of the thing and the dignity of their work for public. It's enough of having big fishes and they come here, I have a beautiful baby or beautiful. That's irrelevant. I had a daughter with leukemia, for God's sake, and I worked hard. But you see, okay, thank you. Because I'm representing myself, I believe Department of Transportation is doing a wonderful job. Maybe there's room for improvement. Latwa, also there's some room for improvement. But I'm totally against the big giants who already have 200-300 cabs, and they weren't even born here.
Okay.
The people, you know, please, you are on the behalf of the people, do the right thing so the little fishes can live as well.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that very much. Okay. Now, if I could ask city staff to come on up. You've heard the public. You've seen the democracy at its best. Tell us where we're at with this item. And if I could ask Maria again to state what the item is for the record.
Item 7 is the DOT report relative to the termination of the existing taxicab refranchising plan consultant contract, development of revised scope of work, and solicitation of stakeholder comments.
Very good. Thank you so much. Please give us an update.
I'm not sure I can top that, council member, but I do want to thank all of the participants on both sides, and especially this is one of the first times we're seeing a lot of the drivers actually coming to committee, and that has been absent in some of our commission meetings. So I do want to thank them and appreciate both sides again on this hot topic. So what we are before you is actually a promise that we made. As you know, the city council basically said do over. So we have given the contractor the 30-day notice to terminate that contract and basically start anew. So what we did is we took that information to the Taxi Commission on October 15th. We presented the council's action. We spoke on the contract itself on issuing the 30-day notice. Roughly approximately about 50% of the funds have been already expended approximately.
How much?
About 50% of the contract.
So that's $125,000?
Approximately.
Okay.
So what we asked, or we updated the Taxi Commission, was in order for us to close the books with that contractor, we have to obviously get all of the products or the products that we paid for,
right,
and that takes time. We want to make sure that we get our money's worth for this monies that we're spending to get products on the task that they had begun. So that takes some time, council member. That's why in our report we're suggesting roughly 45 days or so to come back. Our approach is once we evaluated what this consultant has done, we're going to take that information back to the Taxi Commission and say these are the work products that was provided.
on these tasks, on these issues, whether it's green taxis, whether it's peer reviews of other cities, whether it's medallion structures, whatever the consultant has finished or wrapped up, that's what we're going to present to them, hopefully either late December or early January, to the commission. And for your attachment, we also included what the LA Taxi Workers Alliance proposed as their attachment A. That is true. They did meet with the department and they provided this documentation to us. And on October 15th, the Board of Taxi Commissioners provided a motion. It was a draft motion that was passed out during the item discussion, and it's presented to you as attachment B. There was a few amendments, and the Taxi Commission voted unanimously to approve that motion, which was an instruction to the department. So kind of in a nutshell, in conclusion, that's where we are right now. We really need to see what work product we have, how much money is the final monies that we got in our pocket, be able to absorb the document that's before us from the LA Taxi Workers Alliance, look at the motion that was presented to us by the Board of Taxi Commissioners, for us then to interpret all of that into a revised work of scope that everybody can live with as a first draft, to take that back to the Taxi Commission. For the Taxi Commission, as you directed us, you want them to be the entity that is going to take this through. So we will go back to them, and once we've gone back to them and we have a revised work scope from them that's been approved, we like to then bring that back to this committee for you to then look at that, comment on it before the new RFP is released.
Before my colleagues will want to speak, you've heard the public comment. You've heard it from a lot of different people here. Was there something in the comments today that you would want to respond to, or stay with the fact that, we're seeing really the taxi drivers in the room here, or is there any kind of reaction to some of the things they've said?
Councilmember, our comment is kind of really be the same as we have given this body and the council, that, the department put a lot of effort into a comprehensive scope of work, and we thought that we were addressing through a consultant the issues, at least to bring those issues and some recommendations as a toolbox for this body and the council to then consider. So we have heard both sides loud and clear, and I think again, I think that the representation is here, that there are definitely other stakeholders, there are definitely other, drivers here, and, LATWA has their point of view and they're presenting information, and I'm, we're starting to see that other drivers and management and other companies are also speaking out to you, as well as to the department as far as what they see. That group particularly didn't have any real major issues with the scope of work that we're aware of. So that's kind of what we're here before you as a promised report back. It really is a receive and file, because at this point there is no new revised scope, but we wanted you to keep you apprised. And I think one of the speakers mentioned to fast track this, but as you all are aware, we are going through the ERIP, we are going through some possible elimination of additional layoffs and positions within this bureau. So resources becomes an issue, but we understand the importance of this. We'll give as much priority as we can, but we really need the time for this consultant to provide us the work product so that we have time to review, digest it, finalize it, and then provide that as a first step to the Taxi Commission.
I appreciate that, and everybody here in the room, feel free to talk with staff about this as we go forward. Feel free to go through the process of the commission as well as the committee and the council. There's an open process. None of us here have any story on this. We just want to do what's best for the folks who drive the cabs and make a difference in the community there. So what about the funding? Are we going to be okay?
Well, at this point, the original appropriation was $250,000. Yeah. So with half the funds gone, and we have some again, we have to look at those work products. So I'm not aware of any additional sources of funds. Yeah. Currently, we worked very hard as a department to hold on to those monies from like 2 prior budget years. Right. So that will become, I think, an issue, but I really don't know if there's any additional pots of money.
Okay.
that-
Councilman, if I may, we expect to get good value for the money that we will have expended on the contract.
Okay, now that 125 we spent, and you'll get this report.
The deliverables.
Will everybody in the room here have a chance to look at it and comment on it and to give their opinions on it?
It will be all presented as public document through the Taxi Commission.
Okay.
As to the extent possible, we can provide, our reports to the Taxi Commissions are online, so anybody has access to those reports.
I just want to make it very clear, whatever this interim report is that was done, I want everybody here in the room to have access to it, look at it, comment on it, because we want to shape up something that's in everybody's best interest.
Yes,
okay?
and
So it's important that the process stay open and transparent at this point, please.
We anticipate that there will be value to this product so that you're not going to need a full $250,000.
Well, I'm
going
hopeful that
forward.
the 125 is $125,000 worth of work that can be really the backbone for everybody in the room here to appreciate where this is going. The CAO, where's CAO in this? Are they in the room? No, they're here. Okay, well, just for the declarative sense, please review any and all possible sources of funding, CAO, and come back with some suggestions on that. Please. Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, we did them first. I had them first. They all spoke before the two groups did. Okay? Yeah, they all did, but they're coming back on final comments again. Okay, they already did that on that. Thanks. Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, you talked about revenue. I just had to recall one of the people who spoke. Could Ralph, the driver from Hollywood, please come up here to sit in the chair just for a second? And you can sit down. Okay, thank you very much. Listen to the sergeant. Okay. Okay, I'm calling Ralph right here. Okay.
Yes, sir.
In your comment, you spoke of that you also sing.
Yeah.
I want you to take 20 seconds and sing a verse. And if there's some value in that, we may be able to raise some revenue. Can you?
Mr. Labange.
Let's go right now, Ralph.
Hollywood here.
Japanese.
I want it on Deutsch.
Yeah, it's on.
All right, Japanese. Ueno mu.
Sukiyaki, Yuso Komodo.
That's right.
Okay, good job. Do it again.
Ueno mu ine ariko.
Kaminada local way, gotta be thank you, Ralph. We got $1. Okay, good job.
The one thing I'll tell you about Tom Labange, folks, no matter where you go, no matter where he goes, he always ends up putting a smile on people's face. Thank you, Tom, for that love you give the world. All right, please. Okay, deep breath. Mr. Parks.
Dennis, could you bring in the elephants? And the
All right, okay. We're getting a little giddy here.
Yeah. No, let me, I just had, I had two questions.
Two questions from Mr. Parks.
What was the original source of funds for the 225?
250.
250.
150,000, I believe, was from the Taxi Trust Fund, and 100,000 was from Prop A or C. Prop C, sorry.
And then on, as you said, you're waiting to get this material before you can start working on the new scope. Okay. Now, you've been at this for as long as I've been on this committee. Do we have any hope of finding a vendor that will satisfy the 6 or 7 different points of view, that when the work is actually finished, there'll be some consensus that the report is objective and people can support what's been stated in the report?
That's a great question, council member, and I think the way I'm going to respond to that is we did reach out through a nationwide search the first time, and only 3 companies or 3 consultants bid, and we went through a very objective process and selection process. So I don't think this whole discussion was really the merits of the contract, but process, and we're not sure. We do know that there is a small group of consultants that can really, this is their niche. This isn't a a parking or, other, there's a very small group of individuals or even companies that can do this. So what we can promise you is we will reach out again nationwide to all the stakeholders, and if anybody in this room knows of companies or vendors that can or will do this job, then that should, again, we've given that information that all that should come through the taxi commission to us. So if there is a company that we missed, then we'll be happy to send the RFP to.
Very good. I appreciate that. My friend over there standing there in the wall. There you go. Two things. Listen to what he said in terms of that kind of stuff. And secondly, get with your folks around the room any ideas or suggestions as part of a proposal. They've put together a proposal. I thought it was very impressive to hear everybody speak. All we're trying to do as a council is have an open, transparent process, and so that the best ideas come to the top, and that what ends up happening is in the best interest of everybody. That's where we're coming from. It's going to be back to the commission. Now things will move on. There'll be January, February, March, probably March or April, right? You'll be back to us.
We'll do the best we can. At this point, we need at least the 30 to 45 days to get the products, but we can't come back before you until the taxi commission has vetted it out.
Okay.
For you to then have a draft product.
And it's very important that with any ideas or input, that you get it in that part of the process. When it goes before the taxi cab commission, I think the presence of drivers is key for them to appreciate it, so that any of the comments that said that commission was stacked this or stacked that, it's not going to be stacked if the room is full of folks who can speak and express themselves. And so that's what I want to make sure happens as this process goes forward, okay? Anything else you need from us at this point?
Thank you for your patience.
God bless you both. Thank you. Okay, now we have some general, that is issue number 7 is done. And now we have some general comments from 3 folks. It's David Shapiro, Louis Leonardo, and Arnold Sachs.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, did you want to continue that item? Did you want to continue the item? Thank you.
We'll continue the item, we'll get a report back, and then we'll be where we need to be. Okay, we're looking, we have David up there. Is that Louis?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Louis.
Hi.
What about Arnold Sachs? Come on up, Arnold. This is the last public comment. And before you all split in a second, again, I want to thank everybody for coming in. Everybody's point of view matters. It's on the record, and we appreciate it very much. David?
Let me ask Councilman Labange, without my time being taken, did you say you can sit down because, why? I mean, because, what's the reason?
Hold this time, if you would. Go back to 1. You were standing right there. You were standing in front of the clerk.
Yeah.
You were standing and obstructing the view of the patrons who are here in the building. That's why. So it's better that you sit down for safety. Now you can continue with your public comment. Thank you very much.
So you meant no prejudicial intent there?
No.
All right, because
For safety.
I'm the only one left alive, probably, but certainly in this room, who has watched the system as I drove my taxi in 1959 as a grad student, as I founded the drivers' movement to break them loose, to give them the dignity and the economic justice that they needed. And I've said always, continually, there is a conspiracy down here of all the transportation leaders that I've seen, including the DOT and the taxi commission leaders, and the city attorney, to have only labor's position considered. In those days it was the Teamsters, and to have only the franchise owners considered. And what I did then was to break loose the drivers, to give them the power as medallions would today. And my proposal, if you would also include that in your words, to be considered, would give these drivers the same independence. But what you just are doing, obviously this thing has been all politically orchestrated, and it's designed to make sure that in the end, labor will get what it wants, The franchise owners will get what they want, and I guarantee these drivers, they will be back to their indignity, to their inability to have power over their money. And
Okay, thank you. I appreciate what you're saying.
But I should be the agent, sir. If you said everybody is going to be considered equally and with transparency,
right.
Nobody mentions my study. You've had it a long time. That should be in consideration. The DOT Commission also didn't want to go back in history, and the whole history of organized crime and Teamsters.
Give us another copy of it. Do we have a copy of his study?
Money, power of these transportation leaders
very much.
Need to be considered.
Appreciate
That's
it.
a legal fact.
Appreciate it. Amur has the study.
Am I going to have my medallion study considered?
Talk to him, okay?
Well, by you,
Of course it will
sir.
be considered.
By you,
Look, you are considered by us. You've spoken enough, sir.
We're not even supposed to respond to you. You only have one.
Are you going to consider my medallion?
Respond to you.
Would you do me a favor? Talk to Amur on the side right now. Thank you.
They
Sir.
know me.
My name is Lou Leonardo. I came here regarding the preferential parking district. I apologize for not being here earlier.
Which item was it?
I believe it was item 2. I'm not sure. Is our number...
Go ahead. Take your comment.
The situation I have is I live on a building out of 2 that's between Massillon and Hauser. We're told that we can't obtain a visitor permit because we have to be on the entrance has to be on the street. The only street right now that's designated for us is Massillon. Now, in order to get a visitor permit, we have to buy the guest permit at $250 a day. We have to anticipate that we're going to need a permit for that day or buy $360 at $900 a year. It's difficult to understand why we are allowed to buy an annual permit at $34 or a daily permit at $250, but we can't have a visitor permit at I think it's $24 every 4 months. It's borderline extortion. There's only 2 buildings on Olympic. You can't park on Olympic. There is no preferential.
Thank you very much.
The entire neighborhood.
Amir Sadati, do you handle preferential parking? I do that. This gentleman has an interesting situation. He lives on a peak hour street that has restricted 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. no parking on Olympic, and he can't park on Maslin or the other street. So if you could meet with Amir Sadati, it's an unusual situation. As councilman of the district, thank you for bringing it to our attention. I would ask that if you give me recommendation, Amir, how we could solve his problem, because it's very unique. He's the man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments, too.
Thank you.
Okay, go for it.
Thank you. Rhetorical question, if you don't mind. How's the budget situation? What's the budget situation been for the last couple of years? Pretty poor. In a hole. You had last month on your agenda, it took, according to what was heard in the council chambers, and according to what was heard here, anywhere from 9 years to at least 1.5 years from the head of the LADOT to put on your agenda an item regarding free city services to 8 arenas while the city budget was going in the tank. 2 years, 3 years. Took over 2 years to hear it, over 3 years to hear it. Based on that, please, give me some wisp of smoke that we can, as public people, can appreciate the effort that's going to go into this franchise bid situation. When your ship was on fire, you never addressed the situation.
Thank you.
Give me a wisp of smoke.
Appreciate it. Yes, go for it.
Yes, thank you. Is this working?
It's working.
Yeah, I would appreciate if the Department of Transportation...
You got to speak to the chair. That's the rule.
Oh, the chair. Yes. I'm sorry. English
okay.
is my second language. We don't do this.
It's all right. You're doing
Yes,
great.
Okay. I've been... excuse me. Pardon?
Just.
My time is gone and I was distracted.
Go for it.
Okay. Okay. As you know, when somebody do something, they say the architect of so, the architect of the managing. I've been trained to put the pieces together. I would do, I spoke with Tom and the Department of Transportation that I would have a proposal regarding the Department of Transportation of how the taxi industry should be. And I don't need $250,000. I would do it for $7,777. And they like my idea. And I spoke with Mr. Tom, and I just give my number to Miss Rita Robinson, and I kindly asked her to give me a call because I've been involved in the cab. I've been driving in the middle of the night. They put gun on my head to support my education. So I know the pain from the public society. I know the pain from the driver's side, and I understand some of these people are really caring about their own pocket. They're not telling you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Appreciate it.
Thank
God
you.
bless you too.
Thank you.
Dr. Clyde Williams.
El Sereno.
El
Okay,
Sereno.
I'll make it quick so
Stop
that we can all
at
leave.
10.
Cedillo's Bill 545 was vetoed. MTA held their meeting regarding 710 North Extension. Caltrans is now circulating their geotechnical report. However, it comes back to the basics. The proposed tunnel would only have 6 lanes. The original 710 freeway was going to have 10 lanes. Where did all the traffic go to? There will be no congestion relief in Northeast. It's going to cost $6 billion or more, and that works out to $15 a trip toll going 5 miles each way. So $30 round trip. If the portal is north of Valley Boulevard, it'll take out 250 houses. If it's south of Valley Boulevard, 0 houses will be taken out. And have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That's the end of public comment. The meeting of Wednesday, October 28th, Transportation Committee is now adjourned.